Hi, this is Travis from another video for you guys. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm a doctor of physical therapy, and I've also been a personal trainer for about 16 years now. And today I want to talk about a cool product called the Iron Neck. Specifically, I'm going to talk about this one called the Iron Neck Pro. And there are a few things that do stand the test of time, and I'm thinking that the Iron Neck is going to be one of them. It's a really cool product, pretty unique way to work your neck muscles. So there are some videos that they post, but I figured I'd put my own flavor on it for you guys today. Show you a couple of variations that I haven't seen them do. If you have one of these guys, go ahead and grab it, or if you're interested in how to use it, you can just tune in and see if you want to get one, and we'll get started. Okay, so they recommend you put their little beanie on to protect your head. Once you do that, you just put this thing on. You adjust this piece to your head size, and ideally I usually like to get it to sit just kind of right above or sort of at my brow level. So you put this thing on just like a halo like this. You can put the chin strap on and decide how tight you want that to be. If you're doing any motion where you're going in this direction, you may want to have the chin strap on a little snugger. If you're doing more diagonal stuff though, you're in some of the figure 8 movements, I found you don't really need to have it that tight. And then you attach their resistance band onto here, and then all you do from there is you can just clip this thing in a door frame, or obviously if you have a gym rack or something like that, you can go ahead and put that on as well. I've got a little bit of friction on this tab here. There's a knob where you can adjust how much friction you want for some of the rotation. So I've already set that at a level that I'm going to use that I think is pretty good. And so from there, again, you're going to get more tension, just like any resistance band, when you pull on this thing a little more versus less. If you have carabiners, you can also use some of the Perform Better bands, or even any super band that I've shown in some of the other videos as well. Obviously though, with the neck, you don't necessarily have to use a ton of tension. I would say that more is not necessarily always going to be better when it comes to neck stuff, especially when you're really challenging your range of motion, like doing figure 8s. So even though we're strengthening our neck, I would say we're not doing it in the way that you might normally do it, where you go into a gym and just try to put as much weight on as you can. You don't necessarily want to use that philosophy with this thing, because you could hurt yourself for sure. So even though you're going to be strengthening your neck, I would say shoot more on the higher end with the rep range. And again, quite frankly, I would say you could probably go even 15, 20 reps. If you can barely do 10, I'd say you're definitely probably working yourself a little bit too hard. It's not going to be too difficult to strain some of those neck muscles if you're really challenging yourself, especially in the beginning when you're not used to this. So that's the caveat with that, and we'll go ahead and set this thing up now. Okay, so you just set this anchor point at about eye level. Then from there, you can decide how much tension you want to put on it. And so again, standing a little bit closer is going to be easier, and then standing farther away is going to be a little bit harder. And so from there, sometimes what I'll do is I'll just do some static kind of side to side movement. And again, I can go back a little farther for a little more tension. And so this is just a nice isometric exercise, because this cord is trying to pull me into this direction here. And so by not letting it win, you're essentially working your muscles isometrically. And so again, I just like to do kind of a little bit of diagonal movement side to side, okay? And I might just go back and forth for time. I might just do it for like 30 seconds to a minute, just to kind of warm up my neck muscles in this direction. I can turn to the side, do the same kind of thing where I'm just kind of isometrically rocking a little bit. The other side, same thing. I might go, again, 30 seconds to a minute here. And then obviously I would do the last direction as well. Now working some of the anterior muscles in the front. And again, I'm just kind of going back and forth, just trying to get some of these muscles to kick in. And so that's just a cool way to do isometrics. Again, you can decide, how long you want to do that, how much you want to challenge yourself in each direction. But again, with this in particular, I would be a little bit on the ginger side when you first start. Do it a couple of times on kind of an easier intensity, almost too easy, and you can see how you respond. It's not too surprising to get a little sore if you haven't done this before, because neck muscles are just not things we tend to work a lot. Once you've gotten a read on how you're doing, then obviously you can start to up the ante a little bit. And so a simple way to start doing that now is you can incorporate not just isometrics, but you could do some head turning. And with head turns, you don't really have to go extremely far in each direction. You can decide how comfortable you are as you've been doing this for a while. In the beginning though, sometimes you might want to even just kind of work a narrower window. And then once you've gotten a read on this, you can kind of gradually try to go a little bit farther in each direction. And so if you wanted to go, maybe 10, 15 times each direction, and that'd be for the front. Then you can do the same thing again to the side. So now the tension is actually helping me go in this direction, it's fighting me more as I go to the left. And so again, I can decide if I want a little more tension there or less. Certainly if it feels easier going to one side than the other, you always want to emphasize that weaker side a little bit. So say if I'm over here and I'm noticing, okay, with this level of tension, I can get through 15 pretty easily. Maybe I get over here and then all of a sudden it's getting a little bit harder. Or maybe it's not even harder, but the movement's just not as smooth. Well, then I would encourage you to do a little extra on that weak side. So again, you could either try to tack on some extra reps at the end of a set, or just do an extra set maybe at the end of your cycle, just towards that weak side. Do that consistently for a while and hope that it'll help you to get a little more symmetrical as far as side to side. And the last direction would be, again, facing here, and then doing some side to side in that direction. They say about 10 in each side. I'd say, 10, 15. Again, not a bad idea to have some endurance in these muscles, so you can probably go a little higher on that rep count. Even 15, 20 is probably a fine count as well. And so that's just simple head rotation side to side. Okay, so after that side to side stuff, now we can work a little bit on what we call, protraction and retraction. And so for those of you who see my posture video, you may remember some of this stuff. And so the basic thing you're gonna do here, if I wanna work this forward direction, this one you're not really gonna do the side to side directions, you're gonna do just the forward direction or the back direction. And so from there, you essentially can almost imagine like leading with your nose, and you almost want your nose to kind of punch the wall in front of you, and then punch the wall behind you. Or I've heard people say, almost imagine like if your ears were on some train tracks, and so you're just kind of going forward and back, okay? And so that's gonna help to work some of those deep neck flexors, some of those muscles that help to stabilize the cervical vertebrae. And so again, I'm just kind of going forward and back here. You don't necessarily have to go especially far in either direction. You might start to get kind of tight in these back muscles here called your suboccipitals. So if you're feeling a lot of tension back there, then you're probably going too far. Maybe you have the tension too high, so you can always ease into this a little bit more, okay? So that would be the forward direction, and then you would just flip around and then do the same thing going back. So now it's obviously fighting me more in this area here. And again, I'm just kind of leading with my nose, trying not to let this thing take my head into flexion too much, but just trying to keep myself pretty much level. And so many times your head will follow your gaze. So if I'm looking down or if I'm looking up, then my nose tends to go in that direction. So always kind of have a reference point here that can just make it easy. So maybe fixate on a target on the wall that you perceive to be about eye level, okay? Or if you want to even look down a little bit, that'll help to kind of bring your chin down. Just try not to be maybe doing this kind of thing where you're looking up here or down too far at the floor, because then you're actually doing more of a flexion or extension type movement. And so that's going to help work some of those deep neck flexors and some of those other muscles that help to stabilize your cervical spine a little bit. Definitely some of the muscles that have been implicated to be sources of neck pain. People have a lot of suboccipital tightness, which are the little muscles that kind of live right at that occiput, or kind of that part where your neck meets your head. And so doing some exercises here to kind of shorten and lengthen those muscles and get them working can help. Obviously, if you're starting to feel a headache type symptom, then obviously you want to stop. Not all of these movements and directions are going to be good for everybody, but this can be a pretty gentle one and an easy place to start. Again, you could certainly not even use the halo in the beginning and just try to get comfortable with body weight, doing that, protraction or retraction. Once you feel like you've gotten that figured out, then you can add this into the mixture. Okay, so another cool exercise that they show is basically keeping your body and your head still together and sort of moving as a unit. So as opposed to just moving your head and rotating like I did earlier, it's almost like you want to kind of move your head and your body together as a unit. And you can decide how you want to do the footwork here. Now I can move my chest with my head, come to this direction, and then I can pivot all the way back to the other direction, okay? And then I sort of just rock back and forth, keeping my head, my body. So I'm just kind of pivoting almost on the balls of my feet here, just kind of rotating back and forth, keeping my head and body doing the same thing. Now I'm kind of bobbing there a little bit. You could stand taller. I just think when I get in kind of a little bit of a semi-squat position, it gives me a little more power, so I can kind of do a little more of an explosive turn. Obviously you want to do that in the other direction as well. You can actually do that one in all directions. So you can also come from this direction here, and then you could do the same kind of thing where I'm kind of rotating side to side this way as well, okay? And again, you can decide how much of a challenge you want. But I think that's a cool exercise to also kind of work these muscles isometrically. Okay, so the next exercise, I just want to show you guys how you combine a few concepts. So you can do this in multiple directions. I can come over here, do it from this side as well, okay? This would just be a nice exercise to work on, again, all the shoulder blade musculature as well as some of the muscles in that upper quarter area. Again, you could do the overhanded version as well. That's fine. You know, don't forget you can kind of mix and match as well. Coming a little higher versus a little lower. Okay. And again, same thing from this direction. Again, I could go palms up, pull a little low. You know, just really try to get those shoulder blades to move a little bit. Okay. As I'm isometrically kind of working the head and neck with the iron neck. So that's a cool exercise as a bonus for those of you who are a little more advanced or want to just kill two birds with one stone. Okay, so that's just a quick and dirty rundown on the iron neck, which again I think is a pretty cool tool. As I talked about earlier, I think there have been a lot of products that have come and gone in the fitness industry, and I think this one will hang around for a while. You know, most of the neck exercises that I've seen in the past, they used to have these different plate-loaded ones where you do some primarily extension, or you know, they had this head straps with a chain where you would again do mostly extension. But those were really one-trick ponies, and doing a lot of really loaded extension is not probably the best option for your neck. You can start to get into some positions that might impinge the nerves a little bit. So I would avoid those, again, really extreme maneuvers, especially with your head kind of tilted back into the side. So, you know, if you want to do some of that with this, I'd say tread carefully. But, you know, for the most part, I like to do more of the ones where I'm just kind of stabilizing, with the exception of doing just rotation, kind of straight plane here. You know, if you want to even do a little bit of flexion extension, you probably can go there. But I like all the isometric stuff. I just think it's a great way to work the neck. You're not really producing movement, but just preventing movement. Similar to how you might do a Palloff press for your core muscles and things of that nature. So again, pretty cool tool. I like the fact that I can, you know, adjust the friction or the tension. So it's kind of two different ways to challenge some of the neck musculature, which again is a pretty unique thing you can really do with this product that you can't really do with some other things. So it is a bit of an investment. So I realize not everybody will be able to get one. But if you're in a position to, it's a pretty cool product to try. Certainly for those of you who are having some neck pain, I wasn't having a lot of neck pain before I used this. But I've certainly noticed that since I've started using it, my range of motion definitely is better. And just overall, I feel like my head and neck just feels like it's kind of more supported now than it used to. Before I would sit at a desk for a while, and sometimes I would get kind of tight in through here, whereas now my head actually does feel quite a bit better. I feel like I can definitely go a little bit longer at the desk. Not that I necessarily recommend that, but if I do sit for a little bit of a longer time, I'm not really paying as much of a penalty for that anymore as I might have been in the past. So again, for those of you who can try this thing out, definitely comment below, let me know what you guys think, and if you have any other questions or want to see some different variations, let me know, and I'll try to see if I can maybe add an update to this video at some time. And as always, I hope you guys have some fun.